assuming everybody here is an event marketer, yes? Who here has a team of 2, 5, 10, 20? Amazing. For those of you who have a team of 20 that are event marketers, fantastic. Good for you. But for most of us, I think like events always kind of like catch the heat because like as Ben said, it's obviously the most expensive. Like for us at BandSex, I probably spend a third of my marketing budget at events. Who spends a third of their marketing budget at events? Half? Yeah. It's expensive, right? So the challenge is you have to communicate it up and you have to communicate it down, right? So the management, your CEOs, the board members need to understand the value of your event, and the stakeholders in your organization need to understand why you're hosting these expensive things. The challenge is that it's quite difficult to measure. Because there's a lot of freaking things to measure. I mean, as Ben pointed out earlier, you've got, like the top level data, you've got the engagement information, you got the behavioral information, you've got like the firmographic data, you got a contact list data. Holy shit. Am I allowed to say that? All right. It's a lot, right? So what I've been trying to like work on, my team has been trying to work on, Sagar, it's my team right there, he's my event guy. So what we're trying to work on is trying to distill it to one number. So like, for those of you, I mean, I'm going to be like, I apologize to the B2C marketers in the room because this is going to be quite B2B. So who have you heard of LTV to CAC? Yes. Awesome. LTV to CAC is kind of like the unit economics to determine whether or not a startup is healthy. So it's almost like $1 in, $3 out type thing. So what I was trying to do was to be able to see if I can distill events in a $1 in, $1 out capacity. Now, is this overly simplistic? Probably true. Are there any ancillary behavioral things for an event, multi-touch, prospecting, all those things that I'm probably missing? Yes, but what I can achieve is a simplified version of how you can communicate the power of your events. And then if somebody wants to dig deeper and like have a communication about like how you got to those numbers, great. But it's one number, one ratio, $1 in, $1 out. Cool? So one of the things that, like you guys, I was like, well, I just got to start somewhere because there's so many things to like measure. You just have to start somewhere because like if you don't, you're just gonna run the risk of like getting completely overwhelmed and not doing anything because there's so many things. So this is where I started, and I hope that it makes sense to you guys. So, okay, simplify. We just talked about this. I'm not gonna talk about it further. Okay. Simple equation. Okay, this doesn't look that simple. So the way that we did this, I'm going to start from. If I had a clicker, it would be great. But it starts from like the bottom, and then I'm going to work my way to the second, and then all the way to the top. So the first part is kind of like breaking down your events on a cost perspective. So the challenge for a B2B marketer is how do you anticipate for the ancillary value of the event versus a direct cost. So this equation at the bottom, so cost is equal to event cost minus branding cost is what I said. So event cost, and it's just a combination of like direct and indirect costs. So the way to think about it as a B2B marketer is if you're doing a trade show, for example, if you're doing like, have you guys seen like, I don't know, Dreamforce or eTail West or shop.org? You guys familiar with those? Yep. So like, if I'm a B2B company, if I'm a vendor in the retail space, I would be crazy not to be in those like shows because it's almost like if we don't attend, like, oh my God, what happened to them? They just went out of business. So we have to do those, and we have to do it from a branding capacity. So if I have something, an event like that, where there's a large component of indirect cost, then I subtract that from like, so I separate out the direct cost versus the indirect cost. So, but this is gonna have to be fully loaded. So the cost, as you start off with, you're gonna have to do it with the actual sponsorship costs, personnel, so you have to multiply, salespeople times hours left outside of the office, all of the ancillary, miscellaneous, and whatnot. So that's actually fully loaded cost. Subtract your percentage of branding or indirect cost. So with me, or with a B2B company, that's not going to be that much, right? So like for the way that I guesstimate it, it's like anywhere between 25 to 30% of the cost, depending on how large the show is my kind of like my branding discount. And so I'm left with anywhere between 75 to 70% of the costs that are in my head are direct costs. Still with me? Come on. Still with me? There we go. All right, so the next part, which is a little bit more difficult, is the value of a lead. So, and for B2C companies, this is like, again, it's still like a kind of like an LTV. The easiest way to calculate this is your average contract value of the closed one times your close rate. So, for example, your contract value is, I don't know, $50,000 or something like that, and then you multiply it by your close rate, that's $10,000, then that means your average lead value is, what's 50,000 times 10%? Come on, 5,000. Come on, guys, that was an easy one. So then I have the two main things that I have, right? So I have the average lead value, and then I have the cost. So then I hold an event. Then I have my cost, and then I look at all the individual people within those events. And then, so creating this average value of a lead is a little bit of an exercise. Basically, you have to like figure out what are the characteristics of what makes a lead valuable to you. So for BounceX, for example, let's say the things that make a lead important to us would be part of it firmographic information, then in contact level data. We plug that into a calculator based on the proposed value multiplied by the close rate, and it's going to spit out the value of the lead. So when we get an RSVP list, right, then we have all of we plug it into all of the calculator, so we know the entire potential value of the event, and then of those, somebody on my team is going to start engaging, booking meetings, having the demo, because at the end of the day, for your B2B marketer, your main metric is leads and demos and how you grow the business. And so we look at the actual value of each of those demos, we add it all up, and then that's like the value of the event. You've got the RSVPs, the total value of the RSVPs is the total number of the event, and the actual value of the event is the number of people demos that you've actually set up. And so you take that, and then you divide it by the cost of the event, and then that's going to give you, your ratio, your average cost per lead over average cost per demo ratio, and that's kind of like a proxy that I use for almost like LTV to CAC. So the idea is it should never be below 1. If you put $1 in, you should always take $1 out. So, obviously like more super profitable events are like 2 to 1 or whatever. But at the bare minimum, you should aim for like a 1 to 1 in that type of scenario. In this scenario, I'm not sure how clearly you see it. The top one is without branding discount, and the bottom one is like with branding discount. So start with the top. Let's say you do like a $100,000 event. You've got 100 leads at an average lead value of 500. That means that if you take all of those average out, the ratio is like 0.5, which means you lost 50 cents for every dollar you spent, right? But then we take that same, and this is before any branding discount, take that same event, and then you say, I held this in like a shop.org or something, I'm going to apply a 25% branding discount because I think that there's 25% worth of value ancillary to direct cost. So then I take the 100,000, I just subtract with 25,000, then my net cost for the event is 75. And then it's still the same number of leads and then the same demo value, then my discounted ratio is going to start to 0.67. I still lost a little bit of money, not that much, right? So, yeah, that was what I came here to talk about. I mean, I had another one here, but I think like explaining this is going to take a little bit of time. So should I do it? All right. So this is like if you have that was all in like a unit event economics, which at the end of the day, as marketers, like if I were doing this and Ben were my boss, Ben was gonna come at me and say, what do we get out of it? And I'm gonna say, you know, the ratio is 0.67, so we lost a bit of money, but it was great, or 1 or 2 or something. So that's what you achieved with the previous equation. This one is a little bit of like a multi-touch attribution. I can't take full credit of this. This is something that Marketo has done, which I think is also interesting. So this is on a scale if you do like multiple events. Now this, so the value of the event 1 is equal to opportunity 1 times attribution plus opportunity times attribution, opportunity, and then opportunity n times attribution. So this is a little bit confusing, but let me try and break it down. So opportunities just means let's equate that to the lead value earlier. So like everyone, if you put your opportunities in Salesforce, there's an amount, and then that's like the opportunity there. So say for example, the same opportunity, like that first one, the second one, and that third one attended all 3 events, right? And which very much happens, right? Who's your B2B marketer? Whoever closes on the first event that they've gone to, like rarely ever. So you have to go to like 2, 3, 4, 5 different events. But the challenge is how you attribute that to all of those events, right? So it depends on, you have to like ask your organization if your org is more of like a first touch attribution model or a last touch attribution model. It sucks that no one's like a multi-touch attribution model because it's really, really hard to do. Honestly, like if I figure it out, I'm gonna, start my own company, but figure that out later. But so let's say I am let's say my organization is like a first touch attribution model, and op 1 attended value event 1 is the first one, and then so event 1 was a first touch event, and then a second touch to event 2, and then closed on event 3. So what I'm gonna do here is like this is gonna take a little bit of fuzzy math, but like it's a percentage that you can agree on across the entire organization. And you can say if it's like a $10,000 op, I'm gonna attribute 50% of that to, if I'm a first touch org, I'm gonna attribute 50% of that to the first event because it's like it created the most momentum. And then, so I'm gonna do 50%, 25, 25. So I'm gonna add $5,000 for the first value of the first event. I'm gonna add $2,500 here, and I'm gonna add $2,500 here. And so, and you can flip that model on its head if you're a last touch attribution. You can do 25, 25, 5,000. Got it? So then what you have is you've got like multiple opportunities throughout your entire event, and then that is gonna give you the true value of your event. And then we just talked about how you value the cost. And then now you have an aggregate, so then if you total the cost and you total the value, you've got an aggregate version of the ratio that we talked about earlier. Yes? Good? I actually don't have a closing slide. Should I just drop the mic and walk away?